All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started here with our Unit 2 stuff. We finished up here in our notebook, our Unit 1. So what I want you to do is open up your notebook, and we're gonna make a new Unit 2 pocket. So you're actually gonna open up to page 20 here. And I kind of already started a little bit. Okay, so here on page 20, we're going to take page 20 and take that top corner and fold it down. That top right corner and folding it down. I can't get this any more into the picture than what it is, so that's what we're going to have to deal with here. But taking that corner down, okay, and then you're going to take it and staple it to page 21. And I actually don't have a stapler with me. Or I would do it, but you're going to staple kind of page 19 and 21. You're going to staple them together to make it your pocket. And when I get back, we'll do the post-it kind of tab there for that one. But for now, you guys can staple it. And then this unit is called, this is Unit 2. So you can grab a marker. If at any time you need to pause and get supplies, you can do that. But this is Unit 2. And it is logic and reasoning. Okay, so we're going to look at this unit is going to be more about just thinking. It's not a lot about math or adding or numbers or anything like that. It's a lot about just thinking things through, okay? So once you got your pocket done, we will be ready for page 22 and 23. Okay, so there should be a couple handouts that you should have got. If not, you can ask for them politely. And one of the handouts would be this, and it's actually on 2 pages. So you'll want to get that, and you can split that in half with somebody around you. And the other sheet of paper looks like this, and then it has these on the back. And this is what we're going to look at first. So if you have this one, you just want half of that sheet. So we'll set that one aside, and we're going to deal with this one for right now. So with this sheet of paper, we're going to flip it over to kind of all the writing side, and we're going to fold it in half hamburger. And go ahead and crease it. You're just going to lightly crease that because we don't really need that crease other than to do this next step. And then you're going to fold each side into that line. And the left side. And we're going to end up having like 6 little foldable doors. Okay, and then we're going to take a pair of scissors and we're going to cut on each kind of door. Be careful when you cut here, though, because there's some information here on the inside that you don't want to, you don't want to cut in here. So I'm going to cut right about here. And this one I'm going to cut right about here. Flip it around. I'm going to cut this one about right here. And this one about right here. Okay, and we're actually going to tape this on page 22. I know there's some spots that say tape on the back. That's not actually where we're going to tape it. We're actually going to tape it up here at the top. so that we can flip it up for an example. And an example at the end. Okay, I want to be able to flip that up real quick. Okay, so let's talk about these things that are here on the front. Okay, these are kind of some definitions that we're going to work with, and we're going to start with conditional statements. You've kind of looked probably in science class at what conditional statements are, but conditional statements are if-then form. And then we're going to look at some negations, some converse, inverse, contrapositive, and then equivalent statements. So if we look at a conditional statement, conditional statements, I'm going to put some notation here on the front so you can kind of recognize what it looks like, especially if you are looking in the textbook or on some homework or a test or something like that. So a conditional statement might be in the form P with an arrow and then a Q. We normally use the letters P and Q for this. And then the arrow, we'll kind of show you here in a second what that means. Okay, so let's flip conditional statement open. Okay, so conditional statements, like I said, are written in the if-then form. So we'll change this to if. They're written in if-then form. Probably what you considered a hypothesis statement in science class. These statements can be true or false. It doesn't matter, okay? But they are in an if-then form. Example here, if it is raining, then the ground is wet. So there are two parts to these statements, to a conditional statement. There is the hypothesis. The hypothesis is the beginning part. If we look over here, that would be the P in that front sentence. And then there's the conclusion, which in our case, the conclusion was Q. The if and the then are not included in the hypothesis. So for our example here, the hypothesis is it is raining. The conclusion, the ground is wet. So the if and the then are not included in each one of those statements. Negation is one little part of what we can do with these types of statements. So our notation for negation would look like this. Let's just say I want to negate the hypothesis here. I would write this. This is like a little tilde, a little squiggly line, P. So this is negated P. If we open this up, okay, and negation is the opposite of the original statement. Okay, it's negating what was there. So for example, it is raining, the negation would be it is not raining. We often get this negation by just adding the word not. And kind of like with math or with arithmetic, if you have two negatives, that makes a positive. If you negate a negation, that's a positive. So if the example was, it is not raining, and you negate that, the opposite of that would be, it is raining. Okay? You don't write, it is not raining. Okay? That would mean that it is raining, just like in English. That happens. Okay? Okay, so converse is next. And for converse, all we're doing is we're switching the order of the hypothesis and the conclusion. So remember our P and Q, we're going to switch the order. So we're going to say P, or sorry, we're going to say Q, then P. And that's kind of what this arrow is. This arrow is just a mapping, but it's saying Q, then P. Okay, and we just switch the order of that. So the converse is formed by reversing the hypothesis and conclusion, just switching the order. So here's an example. Our conditional statement, if it is raining, then the ground is wet. Okay, the converse of that would be, okay, remember we kind of split it up into our hypothesis. So it is raining is our hypothesis. The conclusion, the ground is wet. Okay, if we switch the order of that, it says if the ground is wet, then it is raining. Okay. Again, on these statements right now, we're not worried if it's true or false, okay, because these can be anything. Okay, we're just trying to get practice of rewriting statements. Inverse of a statement, the notation looks like this. Negate P, then negate Q. So not P, then not Q. Or if not P, then not Q. Okay, so to find the inverse, or the inverse is formed by adding the word not to the hypothesis and the conclusion. Okay? So whatever the hypothesis is, we're going to put a not there. Whatever the conclusion is, we're going to put a not there. Again, using the rules of the negation, if there's two nots, that means it's a positive. Okay? So here the conditional says, if it is raining, then the ground is wet. So if I want the inverse of that, I would say if it is not raining, then it is not wet. Oh, sorry. Then I forgot the ground. Then the ground is not wet. Okay. Again, our key thing here is the word not. We're putting the word not into the hypothesis and into the conclusion. The contrapositive can get a little tricky because we're doing multiple things here. Okay, the contrapositive looks like this: not Q, then not P. Okay, so we're going to switch the order and put the word not into both of them. Okay. So the contrapositive is formed by reversing the hypothesis and conclusion and adding the word not. Okay. So our example here, same conditional. If it is raining, then the ground is wet. So we're going to reverse the order and put the word not in there. So we're going to start with the ground is not wet. So if the ground is not wet, then we go to the hypothesis. Then it is not raining. Okay, so you reverse the order and put the word not in there. Okay, equivalent statements, you know what those are. We're not going to put any notation there for it, but equivalent statements are two statements that have the same truth value. This means they are both true or they are both false. Okay. So the outcome is either true on both of them or it is false on both of them. The original conditional statement and the contrapositive are equivalent statements. Okay. Those two have the same truth value. Okay, whether it's true or false, those two will have the same truth value. The converse and the inverse are equivalent. They will have the same outcome, the same whether true or false. Okay. So as you work through your homework, make sure you're using this and kind of flipping through these kind of how to find them. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna close everything up. I like to trace around here so that I can see where I'm gonna write within. Okay, and we're just gonna do some quick examples underneath. Okay, I know you can't see my box, but I can see it, and we're gonna write within that. And I'll pick a pen here so you can see it. So example here. So let's say we have the statement, all birds have feathers. Okay. Now, that is not written as a conditional statement. Okay. In order to write it as a conditional statement, I need to put it in if-then form. Okay. So how I'm going to say that is if, you can say it a few different ways, but because I have very few words here, I'm going to say if bird, then has feathers. Okay, so if you are a bird, then you have feathers. This portion here, being a bird, that is our hypothesis. And the part that has feathers is our conclusion. Okay. Your hypothesis is kind of the part that almost, not that you're guessing, but that can be the true or false part. The feathers part will follow that first part. Okay, and I want to walk through one more here. Just kind of example using these things, the converse, negation, inverse, contrapositive sort of thing. So if this is my conditional, if it's a dog, then it's an animal. Okay. I want to find the inverse. I want to find the converse. And I want to find the contrapositive. Okay. So if we look back here, we're going to find the inverse first. Inverse this is what I have. I have P, I have Q. This, if it is a dog, it's a dog is P. It's an animal is the Q. Okay? That was given to me. I didn't choose that. So for the inverse, I'm going to put not with P and not in the Q. So if it's not a dog, then it's not an animal. We're just putting the word not with those. Okay. Converse. Okay, we start back with the conditional, but the converse just switches the order. Okay, so I'm going to write Q first. So if it's an animal, then it's a dog. Now we could talk about whether these are true or not. Okay, if something is an animal, that doesn't necessarily mean it's just a dog. It could be anything else. Okay, but if something is a dog, then it's definitely an animal. So this is true, but this would be false. If it's not a dog, then it's not an animal. Well, that's not true because the cat's not a dog, but a cat is an animal. So those two, this would be false. But these two, like we said with the equivalent statement, these two, we said were both false. They have the same outcome. Okay, and the conditional and the contrapositive should have the same outcome. That's what we said here. Okay, so the contrapositive is switching the order, and putting not with them. Okay, so we start here at the top. So switch the order. So I'm going to put this one first. So if it's not an animal, then it's not a dog. Okay. All right. So that's how we can write those statements. Feel free to use this to help you out through your homework. Okay, here on page 23, we're going to take that half sheet that you had, and we're going to tape this in on this page. And you can tape it at the top and the bottom if you would like. Okay. All right, biconditional. A biconditional statement A biconditional is a statement that combines a true conditional with its true converse. We often will see biconditional as something in the form P with two arrows, Q. Okay, it's a double arrow. So the steps are to write the converse, tell if it's true or not, and if it is true, put them together in an if and only if statement. And we write if and only if as IFF. So here's our example. This is P, this is Q. So if it is October 31st, then it is Halloween. So this is P, this is Q. our first step here is to write the converse. And remember, we can look back over to page 22. The converse is just switching the order. And if you need to write that down, again, you can do that. So switch the order. So if it is Halloween, then it is October 31st. Well, step 2, is that a true statement? Yes, Halloween only comes on October 31st. Okay. Then step 3 is to write it as an if and only if statement. Now, there's a few ways you can write this either way, okay? But I'm going to write if, or it is Halloween, if and only if, and you read that, you don't read it if, you read it if and only if it is October 31st. And what this says, putting this word here, means I can read this statement forwards or backwards. Okay? A good definition should be reversible and precise so that we can write it as a biconditional. Okay? So if it's Halloween, it's October 31st. If it's October 31st, it's Halloween. It's biconditional. It goes both directions. Here's our example. A square is a shape that has 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. Okay? We're going to write a biconditional definition, and we're going to start with a shape. So a shape is a square if and only if, okay, it's a square that has 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. So if and only if it has 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. Okay. So shape is a square if and only if it has 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. If it has 4 right angles and 4 equal sides, it's a square. Okay, that definition can be written in both directions. Okay, that's where we're going to stop for the notes today. You have a big ideas assignment on chapter 2.1. You can open that up on big ideas. I will put a spot for you to submit it onto Schoology. Please make sure that you're submitting those assignments to Schoology for your grade. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.